obviously what we're going to talk about today is This Girl Can Croydon, which I'm sure most of you know now is a campaign advocated by Sport England. It's about 5 years since they started their campaign. I'm sorry, I just can't see anybody. So, I got you back now. Okay. They started their campaign. So, and this is the iteration that's really focused at trying to get lots of women who didn't get involved in the first phase or inactive. And we're trying to use community groups and community organisations to access them. So that's why we're running this programme through you. So if we just move on, hopefully, and now it won't move on. Okay. So the agenda, we're going to do some welcome and introductions. And for those of you who weren't here at the beginning, I'm Christine Double. I'm the Head of Operations and the sort of sports lead for Croydon Voluntary Action. And I'm just going to let Amber quickly say hello.
Hi everyone. So yeah, I'm Amber. I'm the project worker doing all the administration on the project. So anything you need or any questions or queries, drop me an email or give me a call and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
And Amber will be the one on the This Girl Can email address that most of you will be linking into. So it's on the last slide, but it's a This Girl Can Croydon at cvalive.org.uk, and that's where all your inquiries don't need to go to, because you're more likely to get an answer back more swiftly from Amber than you will from me sometimes. And I'm not going to put Charlie on the spot, but Charlie's just joined us today and she's going to give us a little bit of help and support as well. Okay, and then we're going to talk about the overall aims of this project. We're going to do a little bit about the admin that you'll be required to do for us to look at your application and get you started. We're going to do something around promotion and recruitment. And as I mentioned, someone from London Sport will hopefully be joining us at 3 o'clock. We'll have something on sustainability, how you keep women active through the 12 weeks of the programme and afterwards, wherever possible. That's the aim, to sort of change the habits of a lifetime. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the role of the activator, and then the monitoring that you'll be required to do. We've tried to keep the monitoring to as minimal impact on you as possible, because we know it can be very time consuming and most of you are just quite small organisations. So we've had a lot of consultation with the London Sport and we've kept it down to as little as we can, but it is really important that you get the basic information back to us. And then we'll be looking at case studies. So we'll be asking you to, as your project goes on, to identify 1 or 2 case studies of women who started out as inactive and are now participating in the programme and the difference it's made to them. Then some help at the end if there's anything you need, any help you'll need as the project goes on all the way through the project. Please just come to Amber and myself and Charlie if you need help, and we will try to help you. The idea is that we're here to help rather than it be a sort of you submit an application, you've missed a box that you haven't ticked, so we reject it. It's not like that. It's a process that we're hopefully going through together. Okay, so just going on. So the aims of the project. So it's very simple, really. It's just to increase participation in physical activity of women aged between 16 and 60 living in Croydon who've previously been inactive. But just to give you a little bit more detail on some of these key features, because that's it's come up quite a lot. Physical activity. So that can be any sport or physical activity. So that can be a sport that you maybe, netball we've had before, basketball, but it can also be yoga, Pilates, walking that Jane's talked about, anything that really gets women active. So we're not precious about it having to be a Sport England national governing body sport. So fairly flexible on that one. The focus of our activities at the age of the women involved in the activities is between 16 and 60. Now, we would actually prefer them to be 18 because you're going to get into all sorts of safeguarding issues with 16, 17-year-olds. So we would recommend where possible, unless you've got a really good reason otherwise, that you focus on 18 to 60. But if you have got women outside that group, so if you've got some 65-year-olds, we really don't want you to ban them from coming, sort of cut them off the course or anything. They're welcome to still attend, but you just can't count them in the numbers, the sort of minimal numbers that we give you. So you need to have 10 to 12 women of the correct age group, the 16 to 60, because that's the focus of this Sport England funding. Living in Croydon, so they do need to be living in Croydon where possible and have a Croydon postcode. But if they're just outside the area, or if they're coming with their sister and one lives on one side of the road that's in Lewisham and one lives in Croydon, again, we're not going to kick them off. That's just the basic, you know, that you need to have the minimum people living in Croydon. And London Sport have also got a focus on areas where they know there are highest levels of inactivity. So that, as I'm sure most of you know, will be North Croydon, New Addington and Fieldway. And we've also got Central Croydon as another one of our targets. And that's mainly because that's where we're going to be focusing the unit. So just things to sort of remember on when we talk about the living in Croydon part. And then the last one that's probably going to be, has been the most difficult for us, Amber, has been inactive women. So this project is aimed on inactive women. So that's women who haven't done 0 to 30 minutes of activity a week for the last 4 weeks. And that means to a moderate level of activity. So that would be getting their heart rate up a little bit, breathing a little bit more heavily. So you really need to be careful, because when we start to promote the activities, you will of course get women who want to get engaged in things and who are already active but want to do more, because they'll be the ones who will respond more quickly. People like me always do, but we're really not looking for those women. Again, we're not chucking them off if just because their training shoes look a bit used, but we want you to focus on inactive women, and we will be looking to make sure that when the women fill in their starter forms, they are ticking those boxes to say they're inactive. So I hope you understand that. But again, if anybody needs any clarity about anything, we can talk about it at the end of the presentation. So why are we trying to increase levels of participation? Well, regular physical activity can improve women's health and help to prevent lots of diseases and conditions that are the major cause of death and disability. And now, of course, we know that inactivity, obesity, diabetes make people more susceptible to COVID-19. So that's another reason why we want to get women as active as possible. And in Croydon, 63% of adults are overweight or are obese, and 23% are identified as inactive. So that's what, as I said before, they do less than 30 minutes of activity a week, which is, you know, it's difficult to conceive of someone doing less than 30 minutes, but that's what the evidence tells us. And then we know that women do generally have lower participation rates than men. So that's why this programme is focused on women. Okay, so what sorts of things are we asking you to do? So first of all, we need to approve your application. So there is a phase 2 application form, which is slightly different from phase 1. And we have had a few phase 1 applications in. We won't reject them, but just to let you know that Hilary, who was working on the scheme, is no longer working on the scheme. So please make sure anything comes back so that this girl can email. So, and as I've said before, we won't reject your application if we don't think it's perfect. We will come back and talk to you about it. Although obviously, if you can't meet the basic criteria, we wouldn't be able to go forward with you. Once we're happy with your application, we'll send you a terms and conditions agreement, and you'll need to sign that or get someone within your organisation who's able to sign that and get that back to us. Emmanuel, I don't know what you're doing to my screen, but you're doing something to it somehow. So you'll need to give us the times and dates provided. And what we're trying to do with phase 2 is get everybody started in the week beginning the 16th of November. Now, hopefully for most of you that will be possible. And I know that's what Amber's been sort of asking people to make sure they can do that, because then we can make sure that all of our promotion is much bigger and better than it was before, because it was a bit bitty before. We're trying to get everybody together and started, and then we can help a lot more with promotion. So, but make sure you give us the times and dates that you're going to do so that we can add that to any information we're putting out. You'll need to obviously then give us login details for your online classes or a contact detail, so that when people contact us who want to be engaged, we can send them to the right place. Once you've signed your terms of agreement, you can send us your first invoice for 50% of the costs. So we'll pay you sort of upfront as soon as that comes in. Please make sure that on that invoice that you're making the invoice out to Croydon Voluntary Action, and then address it. Any of my emails have got our address on. Make sure you've got an invoice date and an invoice number on it, and a brief description of what the invoice is for, and that it's saved to PDF, because it should be saved to PDF, otherwise I can change it if I was that way inclined. So send us in a PDF and we'll sort that out for you as soon as we can. We do run on a sort of a 2-week payroll run. So if you miss the deadline, you might need to wait a couple of weeks for your payment. So sooner you can get it in, the better. You will be required to do a starter participation form. Now, for phase 1, we had quite a lot of questions around the health of the women that were taking part, because these are inactive women. So there were lots of questions for them to answer themselves, and then if they were highlighting anything of concern, it was their responsibility to go and check with the doctor about whether they should be engaged or not. So it's not your responsibility to make sure that they're healthy or not. It was just to highlight for them whether they should be seeking some help or not. So I think we've removed quite a lot of those questions now, so it should be a lot simpler for you. But the starter form will make sure that these women are in the eligible age group, inactivity group, post-stroke group, etc. And then you'll need to do a register of attendance. So you'll need to be keeping a register of who attends each week. And we are trying to get women to attend at least 75% of the 12 weeks of activity. And we know they won't be able to attend them all. And we know that a lot of these women have got lots of stuff going on in their lives. So we're not going to, again, reject them if they don't hit that 75%. And everybody who attends will get a certificate. Those that attend 75% or above will be getting a t-shirt or a water bottle. I'll come to that a little bit later on. At the end of the course, we'll be sending out a follow-up form to sort of find out for them how much they've enjoyed the course and whether that's made a difference to their activity and whether they'll be hopefully carrying that on in some way. And then the last thing is that we will be asking for a case study, and you can either do this yourself. That can be a written case study of one of the people on your programme. It could be a video of somebody talking about how much they've enjoyed the activity. Or we do have a couple of skilled filmmakers within our volunteers. I mean, Amber's one, and we have Lucy who's done some of the work before, and they'll come down and do some interviews and film some of your participants if that's what you'd like. Okay. I'm going to just pause for a minute there while I just check if there are any questions so far. Anybody got any questions?
I do, Natasha here. With the starter form, how does that work, please?
Amber, do you want to come in on that one?
Yeah, sure. So the way we've got it working is that it's on a Google Doc. So I will send each project will have their own login. So you'll have a code that I send you, then you can then send that code to all of your ladies, and that will all be stored on Google Docs. We at CVA will have access to that, and then you as the course leader would have access to that, so you can view what the ladies have filled in to make sure their criteria fit, or see any other relevant health information for your own records. So yeah, basically I send you a link, you send that to them, and then you get to access every form that's been completed.
Brilliant. Thank you, Amber.
No worries.
Any other questions before I move on? You'll have to speak because I can't see all of you, so you might just have to unmute yourself and shout out. No more? Okay, I shall go on. Hopefully. Okay, so recruitment and promotion. So as I've mentioned, we're hoping to launch in the week beginning the 16th of November. You need to target 10 to 15 women per session. I think I said 10 to 12 before, now being a bit more ambitious, but 10 to 12 is fine. That will attend hopefully the majority of your activities. They need to be inactive women, and I think we've mentioned why that would be. And there might be reasons why they haven't attended in the past, might be time, cost, motivation, Fear of judgment was one of the barriers to participation that Sport England based this campaign on. So the fact that women feel, you know, that they'll be judged if they turn up to an activity and they're not as good as anybody else. So that's something for you to think about. And we have found that the online classes have been a really good way of breaking down that barrier, because women can join, they can turn their video off if they want to, but they don't need to worry about anybody seeing them arrive at a leisure centre with lots of sort of healthy people running around. So it's just one of the things for you to remember. But as we've mentioned, they could be online classes, they could be outside, but you do need to think about the limited numbers according to the government guidance at whatever period of time you're at the moment. Now we know that some of you will already have a ready audience because you're working within a community group already. So for example, I think we had an African ladies group, so they had lots of women already, African women there, so they didn't need to promote it out any more widely. They just wanted to do what they could to encourage the women that came to their group for other reasons to take part in the activity. So you might not want to advertise your activities more widely, and that's fine. If you think you can get your target numbers, then you don't have to take part in the promotion. Although obviously we'd like to promote what you were doing as a group to help your own community. If you go to the This Girl Can website, and I'll put the address on the screen, you'll find that there's lots and lots of fantastic images, information, ideas. So, you know, feel free to sign up to that. I think anybody can sign up to that and use their materials there. And then we're going to talk in a little while with with London Sports about their digital marketing review. But we do want to look at social media and how we use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. And I'm sure a lot of you will know far more about how to use that than I will. Amber, did you want to come in on anything there on the social media side?
No, I think that all sounded good. I mean, I am there to support with social media stuff as well. But I think, as Christine mentioned, if we're able to do that all collectively with the same start date, that will be a lot easier to do, because obviously when everyone's got a different date, that means kind of 12 lots of promotions. So doing it collectively will be a lot better, I think, and I think we'll gain more traction and interest. So that's good. And also just to flag that we have got this marketing event that will be coming up, and I think it will be really useful not only for our project but for moving forward with other projects within your own organisations. I think the skill that London Sport have is something they're just going to share with us, so I'm personally looking forward to doing that just for me as well.
Me too. Okay, so yeah, it's just things for you to think about. If you're comfortable doing your own promotion, I know some of you in your application forms have included some costs for promotion. Obviously, we know that one of the best ways of getting inactive women involved is word of mouth. So if you think you have those connections to your community, you're linked into the community connectors and the link worker prescribers, then that's absolutely fine. You can go ahead and do that. But if you need some support, we will have some funding that will help with that side of it as well. So you don't need to worry too much about that. Emmanuel, I can see you've got your hand up. Do you want to unmute yourself and come in?
Yeah, guys, sorry about that. That was my dog. All that whining and stuff was my dog in the background. I didn't realize I was on.
Yeah, we knew it was
sorry.
you, really, Emmanuel.
I'm really sorry about that, guys. I just wanted to find out if could CVA possibly help with other venues for indoor activities. Do you have any sort of contacts at some of the local community centres?
Yeah, so we briefly about that, Emmanuel, before you weren't in. We have limited influence on some of the the leisure centres and the schools, and a lot of them are just not open to community use at the moment because of the whole COVID situation. I am talking to the leisure centres in Croydon, so it might be that they would, if you had a project and it was part of the This Girl Can, that we could go to them with that and see if we could influence them. But we are also hoping to have a large unit at Central Shopping Centre available from November. So if that's something that you thought you might be interested in with this, just let us know afterwards and we'll speak to you. We will have to be really careful in terms of COVID, obviously, and there are strict regulations on how we deal with people indoors. If it's people with disability, it's far more flexible, and if it's younger people, it's more flexible. But with adults, we just need to be very careful. Either it's 6 or we need to be really cautious on how we're managing those people within the indoor space.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from anybody? Okay, I'm going to move on, and then we'll come back to this one when Chris Northfield from London Sport joins us at 3 o'clock. Okay, so these are just some of the images that you can get from the This Girl Can website that I was talking about before. So we've been using the I Bend, I Don't Break one, because unfortunately a lot of their images show lots of people together having lots of fun indoors and outdoors, which obviously we won't be able to do at the moment, but I have managed to pick out a couple, and you can adapt these yourselves as well, depending on what your skills are around sort of editing. But you can add text and stuff onto it. So this is just an example of some of the resources that are available to you. Okay, so sustaining engagement. So the whole point of this is to try to make the activity a habit. So we're really lucky that we've got this funding from London Sport via Sport England for this project of 6 weeks of activity. So the evidence is that people need to do about 12 weeks of any new behaviour for it to start becoming a habit. So that's why we're encouraging people to do 12 weeks of activity. But it's really important that once the 12 weeks is over, that you're thinking about how you support these women to carry on. So just need to be aware of that. So we know that we need to look at different motivations to get women who've previously been inactive involved. So obviously we'll be promoting both the physical and the mental benefits. So there's lots of evidence out there about the impact of physical activity on your physical health. And there's also lots of evidence about the impacts on people's mental health, and particularly people who've been locked up due to COVID, getting out and about in the parks, as Jane was talking about earlier, is really going to help. But just any social interaction. I mean, Anusha was talking earlier about how nice it is to actually see faces sometimes. So it's all that sort of thing that will impact on people's mental health. So it's just another way, another thing to think about if you're trying to promote your activities to people who maybe have been a bit reluctant in the past. Social interaction is really, really important. So even with the online classes, we were encouraging the tutors before to have, 5 or so minutes of introduction and checking in on people when they came, making people feel at ease, but also at the end of the sessions to enable people to chat to each other and talk about how things were going more generally. And sometimes people, forget the physical activity, that was something they were putting up with, but they were there to have a chat with other people afterwards. So again, just make sure that you're thinking about that and how you're going to include that in your programme. Fun, that's something that's so often forgotten when we talk about this, but we really, really, especially with inactive women, you need to make it fun. So again, Jane was talking about her wee in the park, which made us all laugh, I think. So it's that sort of thing. Make women understand that this isn't going to be serious. No one's going to be shouting at them, to get those 10th press up done. It's supposed to be about fun and enjoyment. And we will be giving some rewards out. We'll have certificates for everybody, as I mentioned before. And then we've got some This Girl Can water bottles and some really nice This Girl Can Get Active t-shirts that we'll give out to anyone who's achieved 75% attendance. Amber and I aren't quite sure how we're going to get them out to you at the moment, because normally we would either drop them all off to your sessions or ask you to come in. It's a little bit more difficult. We'll probably email the certificates out, and then if you can drop in and pick up t-shirts and bottles, that would be great. Otherwise we'll post them out to you. But the thing to remember is, because I've had some applications in from people and the focus has been on sort of healthy eating, etc., but you need to make sure that there is at least 30 minutes every week of actual physical activity, because it is a physical activity programme. So however great your other bits are, it must include that 30 minutes of physical activity where they get their heart rate up and they're breathing a little bit more heavy, they're getting a bit more warm, and that's the aim of the programme. The other way we want to help to sustain the engagement is through what we're calling our activator approach. So the idea is that, you know, if you are a community organisation already, you'll probably know people within that community organisation who are the real good motivators of other people within the group. And they're going to be the ones who are going to be encouraging the women to get involved in the programme. They'll be checking that they're coming the following week, asking them how they enjoyed it. And we want to reward those people really, and identify them as a key contributor to the programme. If you're not a community organisation, you're a sports organisation or an instructor, then you might want to look for your activator within the group of women that you're working with. So again, with some of the online activities we've done, there's always one or two that are really good at motivating the other women to come up. Some have set up WhatsApp groups outside of the activity. So again, just to look for that person that you think maybe could become an activator for you, because they will be the person who will help to continue the activity afterwards. So yeah, they'll engage, they'll motivate them to carry on, they'll communicate and listen to the feedback, they'll talk about how we can make exercise a habit. They might even be good at trying to find some funding, ongoing funding. So there are pockets of funding around at the moment, either from Croydon Council or from London Sport or for other organisations that would maybe add to the programme that we're doing to help the activities carry on. And then there are alternative activities that people can do. So once they've come together and they've been doing this online yoga activity or whatever, maybe if when the weather starts to get better, you can help them continue as a walking group, just to keep that activity as a habit. And then London Sport are doing a great programme called Couch to 5K, which is all online. So that's encouraging people who've done no running before, or even walking perhaps, to get started. And then there's lots of online support and follow up to that. So there are other things that you might like to do outside your particular activity. Okay, so we're just moving on to the monitoring side as well, really, now. So this is quite important for you, because this is something you will have to provide for us as part of the programme. And it's only when we start to get your monitoring in that we'll be able to pay you the second half of your invoice. So make sure you concentrate on this a little bit. So learning, monitoring and evaluation is all about adding to our learning. So we know that getting people who are previously inactive to change their habits of a lifetime is really hard, but it's worth it. So we want you to be able to contribute towards that learning. So we really want to find out from you what worked and what didn't work. That's just as important sometimes as what did work. So as we mentioned before, there'll be the basic online forms, and you can have them in Google Docs. If you're really struggling with doing forms online, we'll let them out to you hard copy and send them back, and we'll find a nice volunteer who will help scan them in for us. And that information will tell us, are we really getting to the target audience? Are we really getting to inactive women, or have we got lots of active ladies who've sneaked in there? Are they the right age group? Are they living in the Croydon postcode that we spoke about? And also we're looking for women, particularly from BAME communities, again, because we know participation rates in those groups are particularly low. And that you need to think about checking the safety of your participants as well. So if you're doing activities online, it's just basic things about making sure they're in a safe space, that they're not going to fall over or trip on something, or something's going to fall down on top of them. But also, if they're inactive and they haven't done exercise for a long time and they're on their own, you need to sort of make sure you check in with them throughout the session that they're managing okay. And as I say, if there's any concerns about them at all, they should be checking in with their GP that they can carry on with the activity. We will expect, obviously, sports organisations and instructors to be qualified and to have public liability insurance. So if something does go wrong, you will be covered for anything that happens. There is a little bit of flexibility around this with some of our ABCD programs. So they're not qualified instructors. We're not paying the instructors. They're people within the community who are encouraging people to get involved. So if that's your project, you may want to speak to us separately about that. But generally, we would expect qualified instructors to be qualified and insured. Amber, do you want to do this little bit about the case studies and the focus groups, just to give everyone a rest from listening to my voice? And I'll chip in if there's anything you've missed.
Yeah, sure. Okay, let me just move this little box that I've got in the way. Yeah, so basically the case studies are our way of getting feedback from one person in your group to kind of let us know how the course has gone for them, and hopefully the positive impact it's had on them and they're changing their activity. So yeah, there's a number of ways that we can get that. As Christine mentioned before, we can come along if someone agrees and do a little video with someone and do a little film that kind of shows a bit of the group in action and the person giving their story. But it can also be done as a kind of online, you know, it can be done as a kind of a Word document or just a question and answer online or something like that as well. So yeah, we can be flexible with that, but it's just to kind of get a sense of what works, what doesn't, but also hopefully those kind of positive stories of the impact and change that has happened. Yeah, in terms of the other thing we've got as well is a focus group. So we were hoping that London Sport will have one meeting where we have one representative from each group that's taken part in this funding. Again, it's just a chance for them and us to kind of gain more knowledge and understanding about what's gone well, what could be changed and done better, and that kind of sense of journey and experience from your ladies in terms of how they've enjoyed engaging with activity. I hope that makes sense.
Great, yeah, thank you. So London Sport have been asking us to sort of nominate this person to the focus group for quite a long time, although we haven't given us any more details of that at the moment. So just as long as you've got somebody who you think would be happy to speak about it and that you have checked that they are in the right eligibility group, then when London Sport do want to run that focus group, we'll make sure that you know, it's a good experience for them, and so that will be great. Okay, so again, really just another one of the images from the This Girl Can resources. So it's just the sort of thing to think about when you're promoting your activity. It's not about becoming an Olympic athlete. It's just about doing what you can and doing a little bit more than you've done before, just to support your physical and mental health. And then just the last screen really is just a little bit more information on who you need to contact. So as we've mentioned before, if you can stick to the This Girl Can Croydon email address, so thisgirlcancroydon@cvalive.org.uk, and that will get you through to Amber and myself. The logo there, which is the joint logo for This Girl Can and Croydon Voluntary Action, you can use on any of your promotional material. Obviously, we'd like you to use that and we'll send that over to you. And just to remember, as I said at the very beginning, that we are here to help. So if you do have any questions about your activity, about how you can promote it better, or if, you know, as you started the course, maybe things aren't quite working the way you want, just the quicker you get back to us, we can help you to make sure that you're still hitting your target figures at the end. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing now so I can see all your faces again. So that'd be good if anybody's got any questions, and then hopefully by 3 o'clock Chris from London Sport will be joining us. So Naomi, we didn't have you at the beginning, so hello to you. So did you have any questions, anything you wanted to talk about? Tell us a little bit about your project.
Yeah, can do. We do hula hooping and amongst many other things, and we think it's a great way to get people active without really thinking that they're getting active, because you're kind of so involved in hula hooping around that you don't actually notice that you might be getting some exercise. So it's quite good fun. You can't really do it wrong. If you don't want to use a hoop, you don't have to. And purely coincidentally, from a social distancing perspective, it works brilliantly because the size of the hoop makes sure that you can't be near anybody else. So that's kind of what we're up to. We can do it indoors, outdoors, or on Zoom, although we prefer, if we can, are able to do it kind of outdoors. We'd like to really, because it's quite a good visual perspective if you were to see it in the park, and you might think, oh, I might want to do that. So anyway, that's kind of what we're thinking about doing. So
Great, and that seems to hit a lot of the aims and objectives that we've spoken about before. Okay, so did anyone have any questions on what we've gone through so far?
Yes, I have a question.
Go, Welly.
Yeah. I just want to clarify because I've been in partnership. One of my partners for my club is London Sports, and then as at last year, I was given some grants to take off, the club as a whole. But if I have to also submit an application for this girl can, will it be because already they have already asked me to apply for this year grant also in furtherance of the club activities.
Yeah.
So I just want to clarify if it still be acceptable for me to.
So London Sport are a partner on our project, so we'd have to be really careful that we weren't double counting. So I guess, Swelly, what we'd need to do is is it David from London Sport that you're working with?
Yeah, David Gentiles.
David Gentiles, yeah. So we'll just talk about that between us and make sure that the activities are complementary and not double counting at all. So we can talk about that.
Okay.
Anybody else have any other questions? Anusha, is that?
Natasha.
Anusha.
At the same time.
Thank you very much, and so really lovely to meet everyone and understand everybody's activities. We will be doing dance-based activities, and mainly for this time we are suggesting we'll do Bollywood, but from our company we also teach all styles of dance and not just Indian dance. So my question, or rather my observation is, Christine, that this possibility of doing it face to face is really fantastic, and if that can happen, that would be wonderful. And was it Linda, I think, or Natasha, who offered also the space? So in terms of face to face, that feels very good during this time. But the other thing you said, which I am beginning to recognize, is that a lot of people who are not, already who are not active, somehow find it easier to be on Zoom because they can switch off. So it's got its pro and con, because if they are switching off, we don't know if they are doing activity or not, and depending on their home situation. So my question is, these two spaces, will they have a Wi-Fi? Because also during, we have to make sure that we don't have more than 6 people, and or the numbers will be less. But our target is 18 plus, in terms of number. So do you have any suggestions or anybody else of how to, what would you suggest to manage that? If we were to go down that face-to-face. Online, I know I've been very successful running online classes. I know that that's a possibility that we can have. The other thing, sorry, just one thing. I just thought we could do online, like say for example we did 6 session online, and the 7th we do face-to-face, and then another we do 5 online, and just as a celebration we can come together. So we could also have that possibility.
Yeah, absolutely, Anisha. We're really aware that the guidelines are changing all the time. So throughout the program, if you started to do something outside and then the guidance changes and you need to go online, that's, as I say, absolutely fine. Just have to let us know. And we probably would be contacting you if you were doing things that would contrary to the government guidelines anyway. because obviously that would reflect well on Sport England anyway. So, but yeah, I think it's just try it. So you can, what we're talking about whether we could do something where there were 6 people face to face, but there was also online. So some people could follow you online as well as others being face to face. It's quite nice for someone who's stuck at home to see other people doing the exercise. And I need to check whether the new unit that we're speaking about at Central has got a Wi-Fi, whether we could use that. But definitely, if you want to try things out, try 6 weeks of online and then 6 weeks of face-to-face. That's fine as well. So Natasha, I think it was you that was offering the potential of an indoor space. Do you have Wi-Fi at your space?
Yes, we do. As of we speak, we're getting better Wi-Fi for the hall. But yeah, we've been open internally for our members since July, so we've put all safety measures in place, and happy to say that we're a COVID secure place. We've actually had a health and safety audit as well. So any kind of worries you may have with social distancing, we're happy to help with that as well.
And your space, Natasha, is on the main road, isn't it? Park Road, the dual carriageway in Central, is that right?
Yes, so we're right next door to St Mary's Church and St Mary's High School, if anyone knows where that is, on Wellesley Road. Yeah.
That's right. So just for people to know. And sorry, Linda asked me when we thought the unit might be ready. So apparently it's being used by Next at the moment to store some stuff as they're moving from one shop to the other. But it should be free within a couple of weeks. So we're hoping we'll be able to use it from November, hopefully. And London Sport are bringing in a new floor for us because the flooring wasn't suitable for sports activities. So they're bringing a pop-up floor for activities. So, but it should be by mid-November, I think it will be free. Linda, yeah, I've got your hand up.
Can I just confirm the face-to-face is 6 online, because we're doing more than 6 in terms of guidance for sport. Have I got that right? Is it 6 face-to-face?
It's 6 indoor for sport. When it's exercise, it's slightly more flexible, but I'm not sure if I've actually seen the specific guidelines on how they define the difference between a sport and but I think if you're doing a gym activity or something where you can do it very much on your own, and I imagine something like yoga would be like that, so you would have a mat and you could be very separate from everybody else. There's more flexibility as long as you're, as Natasha mentioned, COVID safe, and so you've thought about how people are getting entry and exit from the place you're in. So obviously we will be having to think about that at the unit. So there is some flexibility around it, but if you're doing sport where there's connection between people, it's 6 is the maximum.
Okay, and we're okay to take these into our, so as you may or may not know, I work in GP surgeries with patients for long-term health and all other things. We could take this into our GP waiting rooms?
Actually, there's also a flexibility around whether you're working with people with disabilities or long-term conditions. So you might have a little bit of flexibility there as well. When Chris comes on, it might be worth asking him if he knows a little bit more about that as well. But yeah, I'll try and check the exact guidelines and I'll send them out for you. But as far as I'm aware, 6 if it's sport and connecting activity, more flexibility if it's individual, you can individualize people and you're properly COVID secure, more flexibility if it's young people or people with disabilities. Amber, sorry, did you want to come in there?
Hello. We've got a link that London Sport had sent us that has a bit of it starts off with the 6 for sport and it's got a bit more guidelines on there. So I'll just put the link in the chat now and then people can have a look at that as well.
Great.
Could I ask a couple of questions?
Yeah, of course, go ahead.
Okay. I have received a link from the volunteer Croydon at gmail.com. Is that the starter form, just to confirm?
That will be me. Yeah, I think Natasha, yeah, that will be that's the link to the PAR-Q forms. So basically we are able to get into it as CVA and then you're able to access that as well. So that's the link that you would then send out to all the ladies for them to fill the form in online. but you're a collaborator, so that means you can then go on and read all the forms and see what everyone's written as their responses.
Brilliant. And just to follow up from that question, because our target audience is kind of blind and partially sighted women, is that available in other formats?
We can look into that, definitely. Yeah, maybe I can speak to you after this chat about that, or on email.
Yeah, that's perfect. And sorry, ultimate question. When we're doing our promotion, do we use our own email as an organisation, or is there a generic email that we use?
That's kind of up for debate slightly at the moment. And I think when we speak to Chris, it's going to be a TBC. I think you will process your own applications in terms of which women you want on your course, but we're hoping there will be some central marketing where people can maybe get in touch with us to find out a bit more information as well. So I'm not quite sure of the answer yet, but we will be sure of it in the next week or so.
That's all right, brilliant. Thank you very much.
No worries.
Just to add that to that as well, Natasha, there is only me on very limited time and Amber on very limited time. So we wouldn't be able to deal with lots of applications, people wanting to be on the courses, us dealing with them and sending them out. So the promotion would be very much, excuse me, a contact link of you. So if anybody came in that was interested, we'd redirect them to you.
Okay, thank you.
Answer. Sorry, it's having a cough there. It's not COVID, honestly, just a cough. Did anyone else have any questions while we're just waiting for Chris to join us, hopefully? Oh, it's coming. Yeah, hold on one second. Oh. Go ahead, Emmanuel.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to ask, is there anything in place for after this 12 weeks? Reason being, like I have started my various activity groups since March this year. And once you get people active for 12 weeks, they're going to want to continue to be active. I've been doing it since March now, and I'm just wondering sort of if you guys have thought of anything else afterwards in terms of funding, because it'll be quite difficult for you to set these groups up and then not have anything in place to keep them going afterwards.
I don't know if you missed that part of the presentation, Emmanuel, but it is one of the questions that we asked you on your application form about how you think you're going to look at the sustainability of the people who've come to you after the 12 weeks. And we know that's really difficult. And we know, particularly if you're working with, the most vulnerable people, that suddenly saying, okay, from now on, you've got to pay a $5 or whatever it is very difficult. So we will be asking you to think about how you would do that. And as I mentioned, there's a couple of alternatives at London Sport. I don't know if Chris is here. Hi, Chris. We'll be able to mention it, but they're doing a coach to 5K and a couple of other things that you can do to keep people active online. But also what we will be doing is trying to look at other funding routes so that we can try to support you. But that won't totally be our job. It'll have to be something that we do together. Yeah. Chris, hi, sorry. Thank you for joining us. You've come at exactly the right point. So apart from Emmanuel's question about sustainability, we'd reached the point where we wanted some information from you about the digital marketing. So do you want to just introduce yourself and tell everybody about your offer and the training that we can offer next week?
Yeah, sure. So I work for London Sport and I'm the digital marketing lead. So I've been working with local authorities and sports and physical activity organisations over the past sort of 18 months to look at how we can use digital tools and tactics to reach less active people and then to support them to find an activity that's right for them and support them into and start attending those activities. And so obviously last year that focused a lot on face-to-face activities, and we developed a number of ways of reaching less active people through Facebook ads and supporting them to join local walking groups or dance or cycling sessions. And over the last 6 months, we've been kind of transitioning that work to support both some face-to-face stuff where it's happening, but also into online activities. So we've done quite a bit of work around providing guidance and support for people who are delivering activities online, how to best set them up and how to best run them. And now I think what we're kind of keen to do is share some further information about how, if you're delivering activities, you might be able to increase the uptake of those, so get more people in your area to take up those activities and start to be more active. The particular method that we have found to be the easiest and simplest in terms of driving attendance and activities is through Facebook ads, because for both online and offline, what you can do with Facebook ads is quite specifically target a very clear segment of your audience. So in Croydon, I know that there is some specific areas of the borough where work is taking place and where we want to support residents who live there. So we're going to be running a session where we can talk to you about how you can use Facebook ads to target people who live in certain areas of the borough, the different options you would have in terms of how you communicate the message about the activities that you're delivering, and then the different ways that you might get someone to express an interest, because that's the other benefit of Facebook ads, is that it's not like a poster or leaflet where someone sees it and then, unless they take the action to call you up or go to your website and book, you don't know that it's happened. Actually, with Facebook, it's really quite easy to get someone to indicate an interest for you to then be able to follow them up and give them more information about the session, book them into a session or answer their questions. Particularly for less active people, that's what we found. People aren't always ready to go, yeah, I'm going to book and attend this session next week. Often they might say, I'm interested, but I've got certain questions about it. So we've got a kind of a process that we've gone through to deliver campaigns. And what we propose to do next week is run a session for you where we'll introduce that, talk about how we've used the platform, what we've done in terms of reaching less active people, supporting them to find the right activity for them and supporting them to attend an activity. And then we'll go through some of the ways that you might be able to do that yourself. And I think we haven't kind of fully built out the full process after that, but there will be an opportunity for at least some organisations to work with us around actually putting in place some of these campaigns to try and market the activities that you're delivering to a wider audience within Croydon, try and get more people coming to your sessions, more people attending them, and more people active as a result of that. And I guess, yeah, just to pick up on that kind of question when I came in there around other stuff that's happening, we do also have some other online physical activity opportunities which are free, such as the Couch to 5K program, Couch to Fitness, which is an at-home exercise program, and some other stuff that we have either worked with or know of. So again, we'll maybe touch on that next week, but we can share information about how, when your activity is finished, or if your people who are attending your activity want to do something else, how are the kind of ways we can support you to help them to be active during that period. So yeah, the main thing is there's an opportunity next week to join a session where we'll be running through kind of an intro to Facebook ads, how you could use them, and looking to then, as you kind of will apply for the phase 2 projects, to identify some organisations who will work with directly to support you in delivering that going forward.
Thanks. Does anybody have any questions on the training session next week? Anisha, go ahead.
Thank you, Chris. That's a very useful information. Would you help us understand how to reach more audiences? Is that something that you would do? Because that's something that I would really like to understand and do more of, particularly in Croydon. So.
Yeah, so definitely. So that's the benefit that we've seen in terms of the approach we've taken in the past, is that you can use something like Facebook to go out and reach new people who may be interested in your activity. And you can set up a process where you can maybe find kind of people who haven't so far taken part in your activity and get them to take part.
Because Facebook, I mean, social media, I don't use that much, but I do use it. So my question to you would be that you will share with us specifics, so how we could improve our possibility within that, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, so how you as an organisation could run ads yourself, the kind of messaging that you might put out there to get people to say, are you interested, and the kind of process you might need to go through to then support those people to then actually get in touch with your organisation and start to attend your activity.
And certainly in this period, I was just telling Christine and others that actually I have been running very successful classes, but my numbers haven't been that great this term. Last term when lockdown happened, it was fantastic, but this term it's just dropped dramatically. Even though I'm offering all my classes are free, even now. Yeah, so it would be actually very useful to understand what are the things I will need to do to increase that. And this new project that I'm really keen to connect with, that Christine has just spoken. So what your information will be really useful. Yeah.
Great.
Somebody's asked Chris as well about, is it only Facebook? I think it was Linda.
So the approach that we've used has tended to be through Facebook, and Facebook includes Instagram as well, because Facebook owns Instagram, and actually it's very simple to use the same process to run ads on Instagram. Broadly, that's the approach that we've found best in terms of reaching it works very well for reaching a slightly older audience. So basically anyone over sort of 30 essentially. It's not an approach that we've seen work amazingly well for younger audiences because simply put, there's lots of social media opportunities, lots of different kind of ways that young people make. I see 30 is not really old, but that's the kind of definition that we found in terms of usage of the site. We ran a big campaign last year reaching people who are sort of 65, 70 on Facebook. And that worked really well in terms of being a good chance to reach those audiences, and also for reaching people in more deprived areas. There's a really interesting statistic about people who are classed as the C2DE classification, so broadly the kind of lower socio-demographics, people in more kind of routine or manual work, actually accessing things like Facebook every day, and there's like 70 to 75% of those audiences. More people going on Facebook than watching Coronation Street in those groups. So it's certainly a platform that works well for broadly the audiences that we've tried to reach, around less active people in deprived areas. And that's why we've essentially chosen that platform. It's also the easiest to use in terms of targeting and kind of running programs, but you can also run it, as I said, on Instagram. And we at the moment don't have a kind of another recommended platform like Twitter or Snapchat. We don't tend to look at those options for running ads, and things like Google ads. We also don't kind of tend to look at those because they are more for people who are already searching for activity. Whereas Facebook is a bit more of a sort of, you can reach out to people who are sitting on the sofa, not particularly thinking about, I'm desperate to be active, but actually when you can engage them, they can sort of express an interest, go, actually, you know what, I may benefit from being active, or I may have some sort of desire to be a bit more active. So that's why we kind of look at Facebook and Instagram as the main channels.
Did anybody have any other questions about the digital marketing? Because then while I've got Chris, I wanted to ask him a couple of other questions, but was anything specifically around the digital marketing training? So just to clarify, it's next Tuesday, the 27th, and it's from 1 o'clock till 3 o'clock. So we thought we might capture some of you over your lunch period because we know you're very busy. And we'll be sending out Zoom details of that for interested people. Jane, go ahead.
Yeah, it was just a quick one. Can we still attend if our project hasn't been successful in getting funding from you?
Yes, yeah, we're opening out more widely than the project. So we'll just use London Sports expertise in this area for anybody who's interested. Any other questions on the digital marketing? And then, as I say, I'll send you further details round. So just a couple of other things with you, Chris, and if anyone does come up with anything else, they can come back at you. So Anusha mentioned about that sort of fatigue that we seem to have got for online activities. So I think we found the same thing. When we first started doing online, we had quite quickly we had interest, but it does seem people doing online activities, it does seem to have fallen off. And I don't know if people just got a little bit of fatigue, or maybe the weather was okay and now the weather's going bad. They haven't quite got back into knowing what's out and about. But I don't know if that's something that you've found with London Sport. And alternatively, then Natasha added to the group that there are also an awful lot of people who are now too scared to go out. So it's almost two different groups really, those that are fatigued by online and those that are too scared to go out, and how we make sure we're targeting them and getting them involved.
Yeah, I think absolutely. The first time there was a lockdown, it was a very novel experience, and there was a big rush from both the providers to deliver stuff online and people to consume things online. You think about something like Joe Wicks, which was incredibly popular in those first few weeks, and kind of served a purpose there. But actually going forward, I think lots of people have started to sort of get a bit of that fatigue of just the doing any online session. That's where I guess two things. So one, quality sessions will continue to do well, so things that are kind of well suited to a target audience. And then those things where they actually, either the local connection or maybe it's more of the kind of the sense of community, being the kind of really important thing that maybe will continue to bring people to online sessions, is it's not just feeling like a thing that you're doing on your own, but actually the fact that you might be engaging with the group. And that feels to me like, from the little I've heard so far about the projects that you guys are doing, might be the nice kind of added benefit that we might want to maybe tone up in terms of the messaging, or share or identify other ways to encourage that kind of engagement around or kind of outside of the activities that actually happen. One of the things that I can go into in more detail next week, but again, things like Facebook groups we've seen work really, really well. So people who are doing an online session, but actually then they're doing that every Tuesday at 7 o'clock in the evening, but throughout the rest of the week they can continue to engage with that same group of people who are doing the same program. And we found that really important. So I would agree. There's less of a kind of an easy organic push in terms of lots of people turning up and doing online sessions. So you probably do need to do a bit more reaching out and being clear about what your session will entail. So hopefully, doing some marketing around that will help. Making sure they're good quality and they give opportunities to people to engage with others is I think key to addressing that. And I would just say that last point around people who are now kind of getting more scared to go out. I think that kind of comes also at the same time when the weather is getting worse. So people who had maybe started doing walking more or kind of running outside, or felt like they were getting back to kind of normality a bit, will now be spending more time inside. So that there may be, I guess, a second, I don't want to say second, I'm going to say a second wave of Zoom sessions and a kind of interest in doing stuff at home. So again, I think being able to clarify exactly what your offer is and how that fits in with people will be important. Last thing that comes to mind is the people going back into work and routines. Perhaps then how you fit in with that versus the time back in April when lots of people weren't in work or had a very different routine.
And just to follow up, Linda mentioned in the group chat that about using car parks, and I know that London Sport is talking to the council about using unusual spaces under your tackling and activity programme, which is part of the access to the unit. But I think David's talking to the council about potentially use of car parks as well. So I guess that is an alternative that maybe gets people outside, but not affected by the rain as much as our activities have been this afternoon. I don't know if any success on that.
So I haven't got any update on that at the moment. I know it's something we're definitely looking into. I know, having from seeing across other areas of the country, and when you look at areas that go into the different levels of lockdown, it does seem like the outdoor activity is still the one which can potentially continue as long as it's in a sort of a specific setup. So I think the more that we can support to identify what those ways which are safe and I guess can take part even when it is cold and a bit wetter will be key. And probably the stuff where you can still do a bit face to face rather than completely online will continue to be important.
And just my last question as well was following up on Emmanuel's point about sustainability. I know that you're quite aware of future funding opportunities and small funds. I know there was one recently that came out for small amounts of money. So if individuals want to subscribe to the London Sport website? Is that something they could do? And then they'll get regular updates, won't they, on additional funding that's coming through you?
Yeah, and there's so on the London Sport website there is I think it's called Funding Portal, and on there that's the best place to look for all the kind of announcements around funding opportunities and searching for funds that either work for a particular area or a particular size of project. And yeah, I do know there are again other things that I've heard that are coming up, probably more funding from Sport England around activities. So that I completely get the kind of the question, which is around you put in time and effort to set up an activity for 12 weeks and then that particular funding pot is no longer available, and how hard that is to make that particular thing sustainable. And I think that's definitely something that's worth considering in every project that's set up, is what are the options to do if there's no funding, and what are then the other funding pots that are available that can maybe be used to, I guess, continue or develop those types of opportunities.
I guess as well, we're also hoping that by getting inactive women involved for the first time, and that all the activities are free, but if you've got them interested and they really are enjoying it, then they might be able to make some sort of small contribution, which might be enough to cover, you know, the cost of an instructor or a venue or whatever it is, the minimum cost that you need to cover. So it's just worth thinking about that, and maybe talking to the group as you go through about, although these classes are free, if we don't want to continue them, we might need to look to find some sort of contributory cost, which I imagine happens in quite a lot of the activities you're doing as well, Chris, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think yeah, you've got to have that thought from the start, I guess, around what is the sort of, how would you make it sustainable? What is a suitable amount that someone may suddenly want to be able to pay? Because yeah, it's difficult going from a free session to suddenly it being a session that costs £4.50. But actually, if there is a way that people can contribute once they've got into it, then that can be useful. Yeah, we've seen some stuff. It's probably not directly applicable here, but where if you can build so for example, the stuff that our parks do, it's around delivering activities in parks. They've built quite a successful model in terms of delivering sessions for free that people can attend all the time, and then having like a second tier, which is like a premium, where actually people do contribute and they can get some additional access to sessions, whether that's online sessions or in parks, and some other kind of things that basically add value. And they then quite successfully run this like dual model where there's always a free option for people to do something, but actually the premium model kind of sort of subsidizes that and keeps it going.
Great, thank you. And Linda's also put in the chat that One Croydon might be able to help. So Linda, I don't know if you can put any details of how people would contact One Croydon, but that would be really helpful. I think our parks are in a number of parks in Croydon at the moment, but we can try and get that information. I'm at a meeting with Croydon Council tomorrow, so I'll try and get that information out to you. Are there any more questions from anybody, particularly for Chris? Otherwise, just to thank him for popping in on our call. It was really, really useful. And then if anybody's interested, if they get back to Amber on the This Girl Can Croydon contact, or otherwise we'll just send you the slides from today's presentation, the details of the training for next Tuesday, and maybe the links that have come up in the group chat as well. So anything from anybody else before we go?
Yeah, I have a question.
Hang on one second. Naomi, do you want to go?
Yeah, just you sent me an email this morning, I think, saying we just wanted to chat through a couple of things. So when would we be able to do that?
You can stay on after this if you like. When everyone's gone, I'll stay on with you and we'll go through that. Wole, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to ask the Chris about is there a provision to support people that they want to build a website so that in order to promote their project?
Support for people to build a website, is that right?
Yes, please.
So we don't at the moment directly have any particular either contacts or I guess areas of work specifically around building websites. There's definitely some options around utilizing tools that are out there that could quite quickly give you access to information about your session online. If you think about the comparison with, say, something like Just Eat, a lot of takeaways don't have websites, but somewhere like Just Eat came in and kind of very quickly enabled them to have their menu online and people to be able to book through them. So there's some comparable products such as that which could work to do that. And yeah, I can certainly have a chat with you after that training session, or if you've got a specific question, if I know of anything or work that's going on around particularly like website development, but kind of specific builds of websites for clubs or organisations isn't something that we kind of do at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Right, okay, everybody. So I'll get that all out to you. So just thank you very much for all joining us today. And we really look forward to, we know we've had a number of successful applications already. So we really look forward to you either, you know, changing them slightly or adding bits that you've got from today, or if there's still things you're unclear about, just getting back to us. Okay, and then we look forward to lots of exciting projects for November. Thanks again, Chris, and thanks everybody.